Welcome to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over a movie since high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation on relevant cinema. I'm your host, Brandon Bulby, and I have with me Sean Bulby.
Hey there.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Be fun talking movies with you again. So,
Yeah.
on this review, we will be talking about the long-awaited film called Dune.
hmm
This movie's been delayed since 2019, and we finally got to
A
see it.
reoccurring
Um,
theme for our recent
we
reviews.
definitely we are huge Denis Villeneuve fans, who is the director of this film. Though we did realize we have only seen maybe half of his movies, so we're kind of slacking, Sean.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. He's
do you
def
disagree?
I mean, he's definitely one of my favorites. He has some movies that go all the way back to 1998
Yeah.
and
I think maybe
2000.
it's safe to say we've seen pretty much all his American films. We just
Yeah.
need to go back and see his French
Yeah.
art.
There's a one I mentioned earlier in 2010 that he was nominated for best foreign language film Incendies. Incendies.
Hmm. That'd probably
Um,
be a good start.
he was nominated at the Oscars, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I've never even heard of these other ones, and
Right, me neither.
yeah,
We need to get on it. We're bad fans, but for anyone else who doesn't know who he is literally one of the, I don't know,
yeah,
top seven best directors living
that's
right now.
specific.
Um, no, I didn't want to say five because like all these other directors' names start popping in my head.
Uh huh.
So I just went with
Yeah.
seven. But you got to see Sicario, you got to see Prisoners, you got to see Blade Runner, you got to see Arrival. Like this guy does not
hmm
miss, and he's firing on all cylinders. So
Yeah.
see all his movies,
And then
and we will try to as well.
Enemy is one of his more recent ones that I think we you hadn't seen it either, Brandon.
No, I haven't seen it
I
either.
haven't seen Enemy. But that's that he did that after Prisoners, and oh
Hmm.
wait a minute, I'm looking at it at IMDb right now, and it says both of them came out in 2013.
Yeah, the same year.
Wow,
But yeah, it's
that's
interesting.
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 Yeah.
So Dune came out this weekend. It made $40 million at the box office, which is, not bad. It's
hmm
not like Marvel new blockbuster,
hmm
but pretty good for a weird space opera.
Yeah.
Um, and instantly, Warner Brothers tweeted out that they greenlit the sequel to the film.
Awesome. Yeah.
Very cool of them, or not cool of them, very like cheeky of them to wait until the weekend of the release to just wait for to see the dollars come in if they were going to greenlight the next or not.
Yeah. A couple interesting things. I don't know how much they advertised that this was part one of a two-part series.
Right.
I knew that it was, but early before this episode, I mentioned that the the previous title, like its official, this movie's official title is Dune, and
Hmm.
it. I read on, I think on IMDb that its previous title was Dune Part One.
Okay.
So that was like its official title, and then, so that's. I wonder if what they were going
Yeah.
for.
What?
If they did, there was like some type of marketing thing that they thought maybe people would be less
Yeah.
likely to go out and rush out and see the first part of a two-part Dune, Dune
Yeah.
movie
It'll
or
probably just
something.
be
But
called Dune, and the second will probably be Dune, just part two.
yeah,
We'll add that suffix to it.
yeah, which is pretty common.
Um,
And I will
mhm.
also point out that this movie had a $165 million budget,
Oh,
and so far it has grossed to $223 million worldwide.
worldwide.
So it's
That's good.
yeah, 40
No,
million
yeah, the 40
seems
million in the States is just a
yeah,
small fraction of
yeah.
that. And that's good to hear. I
I,
mean, I didn't know how good this movie would actually
yeah,
do, and it's great to see him breaking out because, his last film, Blade Runner, was kind of middling in the box office.
yeah,
So I'm really
definitely.
happy for
It
him.
was really unfortunate. But yeah,
Imagine if the sequel could have been in the works over the last year and a half already,
yeah.
um, and didn't have to wait this long to get its budget finally greenlit. You
Definitely.
mentioned how much did it cost? 180 million?
165 according
60.
to
Just kind of getting
Wikipedia.
into the film review, but I feel like I've seen a lot more expensive Marvel superhero films that looked a lot cheaper
Yeah.
than this
Yeah,
movie.
definitely.
Honestly, that's a
Yeah.
crazy amount of money, but it's surprising. Like this movie
Mhm.
could have been 300 million and
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been
definitely.
batting an eye.
For a 2.5 hour, like every single shot is,
A
some type of,
CGI
yeah,
painting.
yeah. But
But anyways, let's just get into it. Like, what else are we going to talk about besides the biggest movie of the year? So let's get started.
mhm.
So, film Dune by Denis Villeneuve, starring Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, and Oscar Isaac, among many other famous people, which I'm not going to take the time to list, but we might touch on them in a bit. Plot description. It's a feature adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel, famous 1960s epic sci-fi fantasy, about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and the most vital element in the galaxy. Undersimplification of this
Mhm.
massive
Yeah.
story. But I don't know, Sean, take it away. What did you think of this movie?
Yeah. Um Man, it's hard to it is kind of hard to put into words. And I felt the same about Blade Runner 2049.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's I think the thing that that really impacts me about this movie and as well as Blade Runner 2049 is that I feel like every moment of this movie, both these movies, every scene, everything that happens in this movie, there's something incredibly unique about it. There's something that I've either never seen before, or an idea, or something visual
Yep.
that I've never seen done before, an idea that I've never seen in on film before. Um, and it's so refreshing to see that on such a high budget movie like this.
And not
Again,
only in its like epic, big scale shots, but in its
yeah,
like intimate moments too.
yeah,
It's incredibly unique and special in some form. Like
yeah,
you're just always seeing something new.
hmm yeah, definitely. And it's like, I mean, I know Dune is a pre-existing property. So, same with Blade Runner, and a lot of this, a lot of the ideas that happen in this movie are come out of the book. But yeah, I even feel like just the way that those ideas were realized in this movie
Hmm.
are so unique and interesting.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that I mean that's like the my initial kind of the thing that like just blows me away about this movie. To get more into detail, it's a you know it's really famous book. I've never read the book, but I've seen a couple different adaptations of it before. I saw the David Lynch
Yeah.
version, and I saw a long time ago the miniseries
Oh,
Dune.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
I definitely read the first like 150 pages of this book, like
yeah,
back in high school.
uh huh.
Um, and I don't know why I put it down, but I didn't come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
From
necessarily hate it, but that was after I had already seen the David Lynch version of it. I
Okay.
picked up the book for a
Yeah.
bit.
From what I understand, it's a hard first, however many pages to get through. It's a lot
Yeah, I
of
mean, I remember it's like 100 pages of him, like he hadn't even gotten to Dune yet,
yeah.
and that's like over a fourth of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm right now. I'm looking through my book collection or Kelly's book collection. I'm pretty sure she has. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah. So it's I think it's like a 400-page book. Um,
yeah, I mean, not too
and
long. Like,
but from what I understand, it's really dense, and a lot
mhm,
of the first part of it is very getting into the different houses and the different
how's the
families, and
geopolitics?
yeah, and the politics of the galactic empire, and
I
so
mean,
yeah.
I want to jump off that. Like, I kind of really appreciated learning about this world and that side of it. I think it gave you just enough information
Mm-hmm.
without like, you know, going boring into the politics of these families.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it. What did we just watch? It is very like adaptive of like
Mm-hmm.
medieval times.
Oh
Like
yeah,
this
definitely.
is, even though this is a
Yeah.
sci-fi movie that takes place, 8,000 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's very much a fantasy and a lot
Yeah.
of it's very much from like, 1300s
Mm-hmm.
European like yeah, fantasy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, kind of reminiscent of Game of Thrones a little bit, like with the different houses and
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we just watched The Last Duel. I was talking about that with Derek,
mhm,
and we loved hearing about like the politics and what it actually meant to own your like castle and the people you're in charge of, and like
mhm.
very it felt similar to that, like the emperor giving them different planets to
Yeah.
watch over and to take care of and
Mhm.
protect. And
Yeah.
I found that all fascinating, just on a like massive story scale.
Mhm.
People talked about it, maybe it was overcomplicated. I felt like I had my head wrapped around pretty much everything that was going on, and maybe the few details I'll just learn more about in the next movie.
Yeah.
But I
Interesting.
think they did a great job on that stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I almost would even say I wish they had gone into a little more detail about the politics of what was going on, because some of it even felt a little rushed. Not really in a bad way, but in a way where it was just, I don't know if I fully grasped like kind of the steps that were taking place behind the scenes almost.
Like,
Um,
give some examples,
like
and we
just
can start going in more detail.
get it. That would be kind of getting into some spoilers, but
Okay,
just how
we'll come back to it.
the families, like how the I guess and I guess again maybe the sequel will get more into what happened, but
Mhm.
just why the things ended up happening the way that they did.
Okay, I see
Um,
what you mean. And that's the big thing that I'm sure they'll get to more of, like the big
mhm.
twist.
Yeah, that's
Um,
probably true.
yeah, so I just feel like the kind of bigger reasons behind that will come out further
Hmm.
as one point.
Yeah.
I guess let me say my opening statement. And like you said, it's hard to talk about this movie. I think a reason why it's hard to talk about this movie because all you want to say is just how big and epic and beautiful
Hmm.
and loud it is. But that's like the headliner of every article being written about this movie right now. So it's kind
Hmm.
of like a boring take at this point,
Yeah.
right? But it can't be understated. Like he Denis Villeneuve like found out how to deliver scale and to
Hmm.
make things feel larger than life. Um, it just starting with these individual characters and then zooming out to their like individual spacecrafts and then these giant monolithic things in orbit that the ships are
Hmm.
flying through. Like the scale of this movie is just out of control,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
he nailed it. And it just makes you feel like you're a part of something that is so much bigger as a viewer, like a world that is so advanced and lived in and kind of ancient too.
Hmm.
Like a big part of this is like we kept saying fantasy. Like even though it's sci-fi, there's like an ancient fantasyness,
Well,
religiousness about everything and its design,
yeah.
and it's just really fascinating.
Yeah, I would almost say that this movie, in a lot of ways, is more fantasy than science
Hmm.
fiction. It's like
There's
there's
almost no
this,
science in it,
yeah,
right?
there's no science, and it's there's like this spice that is crucial to the economics of the universe, but
Yeah,
it's never really talked about or explained. There's clearly like some kind of
it's
mythical, magical stuff going on with the mother and the like almost witch or
yeah.
sorceresses
Literally, they say
order.
witches. Yeah, they
Yeah,
say witches.
and yeah, so
Okay,
and
yeah, the
they're like,
spice is a part of the interstellar travel, like they
yeah.
said at the beginning, and which is basically
Hmm.
magic.
Yeah, and in a
And
lot of
even though
ways,
you're
like,
seeing like spaceships, traveling
yeah,
across planets, you're really just seeing like a ship, like just levitating towards where it needs to go without
yeah,
any rules or further explanations
yeah,
besides spice is making this possible. Or
yeah,
like,
definitely. And even
yeah, it's
like
interesting.
how Star Wars is much more of a fantasy as well, with like its magic, the Force being just
Right.
magic, and The way lightsabers work. Sure, it's like lasers or laser energy sword thing, but it uses crystals to create that laser or whatever. So it's like it takes place in space, and so it has kind of a science fiction feel to it, but
Right, but
it
space
very
doesn't
much
equal
is.
sci-fi.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
that's very interesting.
and yeah, like all the prophecies and like the him,
Hmm.
or not prophecies, but him like having visions of the future, and yeah, all that is very fantasy esque.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, and I it's really interesting to see not a ton of science or space type movies really do that, go in that direction. So it's really fun to see it, and see it explored in that way. I know this
yeah.
is a really old
I
book, and not necessarily just this movie, but I love seeing it on this scale and with this level of craft.
For sure. Um, I I think he has. This is a long enough movie, though I feel like a lot of movies right now that I've seen recently have been about the same length. But you gotta talk about if someone can hold together an over 2.5 hour film like this, and I think without a doubt he keeps the pace on point for this movie
It is. I would
at
go
that
as
length.
far as to say that this is a breakneck pace for for a
Actually,
movie
yeah, like
almost.
I was impressed. Like, so sometimes I see editing cover like huge scoped things very quickly,
Hmm.
and I notice it. I'm just like, wow, like they did not pause on that, and they really could have. I always talk about this with like movies like Francis Ha and While We're Young. Neil Blomkamp. What? No, that's not his
Bloomcamp.
name.
Yeah, yeah, Neil Bloomcamp or something.
No, that's the wrong director. I'm afraid.
Oh,
Anyways, like directors who like cover a lot of ground with quick, fast, who aren't afraid just to move on from a scene, and he does this, like you're saying, throughout this 2.5 hours.
mm-hmm,
Um, he doesn't necessarily linger when he could have,
mm-hmm.
and it's pretty. It's pretty unique for such an epic movie that could really slow down at points.
Yeah, definitely. With yeah, easily could have gotten bogged down with explanations, and
Hmm.
and he really relies heavily on showing, and using subtle kind of techniques, to to show like the inner workings of this universe, and to give the viewer a sense of how it all works rather than explaining it. And he's so clever with a lot of these scenes, and like you said, he does these, like a lot of small scenes that he isn't afraid to just like say what he needs to say or show what he needs to
Yeah,
show and then move on. Yet those
jump in
little
and out of.
scenes, some of them are still so impressive, and like there's so much visually interesting going on, and it's yeah, none of those, even though they're like quick and they're kind of to the point, they're just still just breathtaking. And like even just the scene, with the I'm gonna blank on so many terms and
Yeah,
names in this
don't worry
movie,
about it.
but the Harkonnen guy, like him like bathing in that oil,
Yeah,
um
the costumes
as
in that scene are only unique to that scene.
uh-huh,
Like
yeah,
so many of the characters, the way they talk, and then yeah, the oil bath.
yeah, um
There's even a shot where he just focuses on the like coloring of the water as it cuts away,
uh-huh, definitely.
of just like the ink splots on the water. I mean, and it just and he shows that shot for a second and then cuts on to the next epic scene.
Yeah.
And
And so yeah, he just, even though a lot of these things are kind of small, and it could get bogged down in in these, necessary scenes, every single one is worthwhile, and every single moment of this movie is
yeah,
breathtaking, and it makes it all very engaging. And I think that's where it was at its most successful.
there's massive grand scale epic moments that are like heart pounding action sequences
Mm-hmm.
in this movie. Of like war and violence and all that stuff. Um, sand creatures and things. There's also like heart pounding small moments in between those.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is all kind of relating to pace as well. That really had me sucked in. I mean, the infamous hand in the box
Yeah.
sequence was just like so well done,
Yeah.
and we all like you remember that from um the
From
previous movie,
yeah,
the previous Dune film.
yeah, David Fincher's Dune.
No,
What?
see, you got it wrong too.
Oh my
um
God, I did.
David Lynch's
David
Dune.
Lynch's Dune.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's just so many of those, like from a grand scale to these personal, intimate moments that are just like stunning and thrilling to watch. That even between these like geopolitics, family ruling, dialogue heavy stuff, there's really great moments that pick up the pace in between all that too, that are scattered throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I want to get into spoilers and start talking about scenes and start talking about characters. Unless there's other general things you want to bring up.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I guess I just wanted to shout out the cinematographer,
Hmm.
whose name is I have forgotten. Uh, Craig Craig Fraser.
Yeah,
He's not.
you
He
hadn't
doesn't have
worked
a
with him
ton.
before.
Yeah. No. I mean, Blade Runner was
Roger Deakins,
Roger
a
Deakins,
lot of others were.
and yeah, but yeah, he did like Zero Dark 30 and
Hmm.
Vice, and he's doing The Batman. It's coming out soon. So a lot of his stuff he did like Foxcatcher and Lion and um,
Not a huge career for a cinematographer,
yeah,
just a select handful of films.
yeah, but yeah, I really wanted to shout him out because this is some
Yeah.
pretty incredible work here. Also, just like the cast, it just has
It's
such an incredible
well, let's
cast.
the cinematography. It's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
top, top tier work. Like
yeah.
something to talk about decades later
Mm-hmm.
type work.
Yeah.
And maybe Denis Villeneuve knows how to bring this out of people, but clearly he's worked with good directors before,
Mm-hmm.
and he brought a lot to the table. Like this wins the award hands down. Like nothing will beat this. This year, probably many other years after.
Yeah.
Insane.
Could yeah. Um, yeah, and it's even kind of interesting because last year best cinematography was won by, um, uh, was it Nomadland? I'm kind of blanking now, but
Yeah.
a much smaller kind of indie movie, and all the best cinematographer nominees were smaller indie movies because not too many big movies came out. But so it's exciting to see this kind of big high really kind of
Yeah, this kind of high
much
caliber
bigger,
work on
yeah,
display.
high caliber work. Um,
What? Shout out the cast.
yeah. Oh
We got to.
man,
We
the
definitely got
cast
to do that.
is there's so much. Yeah. You wanna?
I mean, Timothy Chalamet. I'm like he's incredible.
Yes, he is.
Like I've, I'm a huge fan of his.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Call Me by Your Name was one of his breakout roles when he was
Mm-hmm.
like 17 or whenever. Actually, he was 17 in the movie. He was probably a little older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he consistently keeps choosing
Mm-hmm.
great roles, and yeah, this is just equally as impressive.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then so yeah, Timothy Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa is super fun.
Even Jason Momoa did great. It was
Yeah,
super believable and solid.
absolutely. Josh Brolin was really good as the kind of the hard, the stern kind of
Hmm.
hard hitting mentor. Javier Bardem. I haven't seen Javier Bardem in a while in a movie,
Yeah,
and
he shows up out of nowhere, right?
yeah, he's probably going to have a much larger role in the second one.
True. Good
He
point.
only comes in early on in this movie, and then shows well. He's going to have probably have a larger role in the next one, but he was really fantastic for the small
Hmm.
amount of time he was on there. Dave Bautista, he's always
Batista's a
fun to see.
star.
He is
Like,
he is an
I know
actor.
they worked together on Blade Runner, but like
Yeah, that's true. I
he's a
forgot about that.
star.
Yeah, he does really well. He's probably going to be in the next one a lot more. Um, and yeah,
I
Rebecca
thought,
Ferguson was
yeah, both Rebecca
so
Ferguson,
fantastic.
Oscar Isaac brought a lot to their roles. A
Hmm.
lot of like, love for
Yeah,
their child.
yeah,
Um,
subtlety
s- Also
and
like a ton of strength,
mhm.
and I don't know, just everybody from top to
Yeah,
bottom was believable.
yeah. And then absolute shout out, Stellan Skarsgård as the
The
kind
villain,
of the
right?
villain.
Yeah.
Man, such a perfect voice for that role.
It's
Uh,
just his normal, like they didn't
yeah,
even have to
that's just his
enhance it.
voice.
It's
Yeah,
just his voice.
but yeah, the way he plays it is just so good and brilliantly cast. Um,
Are we even going to shout out Zendaya, or does that not count yet on the next
yeah,
movie?
she plays a fairly small role, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. She has blue eyes in this one.
Yeah.
That
You
was
don't
cool.
really don't really think of, maybe people do now, but I don't really. Denis Villeneuve like gathers a team of actors around all of his movies.
Hmm.
Everybody's recognizable, but he fits them in just like perfect roles. And I just, yeah, outstanding casting.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. From early on in Prisoners, like really all the way through, just brings
Great.
out incredible performances from a lot of great actors.
Ready to do it?
Yeah, let's Dune
All
it.
right. Let's, oh God. All right,
Sorry,
let's go into
sorry,
spoilers.
everyone.
Spoilers. Really just go see the movie. Don't even listen to this podcast unless
Absolutely.
you've seen it. So here we go. Let's talk about some specific scenes and then even like specific plot details as well. Like, I wanted to like talk about kind of the climax when I was saying there's these epic scale moments, but also some like smaller, intimate stuff that are just as intense. Like just that one-on-one knife fight,
Hmm.
um, in the sand, like in the sand after all they've been through to like prove his life, and it's even like a plot detail that becomes believable because there's like all these cultures are soaked in so much tradition. You're like, okay, we're actually gonna have a hand-to-hand combat to death to
Hmm.
prove like who's a better man.
Yeah, again, a medieval duel. You
Yeah,
know.
we just saw the last duel, right?
Yeah,
And it's like this is so barbaric. What are we watching? But it's like, okay, like this is
it
a fantasy
fits
medieval movie
fits
where
so
this
well into
exists.
this world.
Yeah. And the way that like scene plays out with just him absolutely like toying with him, and then the guy's like, why is he playing around with him? And the mom's just like, he's never killed a man before.
Hmm.
And you like feel that pain and tension
Yeah.
that he just like wants him to surrender so bad, and just the way everything plays out
Hmm.
was just an incredible climax to the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, and it makes that scene so much more have so much more depth than um, than it normally would, just as a knife fight between two
Yeah.
people, and with beef.
When
And
it ends, the music, like goes like absolutely gorgeous. Things go into slow motion
hmm
for a bit. There's that shot of him walking away from the like fight, and the kind of people, the sand people around him are like, touching him on the shoulder.
hmm
And it's just so epic on such a small scale. And there's just
yeah.
like so much emotion behind it. Just really, really good.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Um,
I Go
where
ahead. I can
I
keep
guess
going.
I mean that scene is absolutely incredible, and the whole build up to that scene is remarkable as well.
Build up's like a half hour before,
And
right? Like it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
almost
definitely.
nonstop.
Um, but I was gonna ask where were you hooked? Was there a scene like early on that just like that got you
A
so?
scene.
Yeah.
This is such a good question. You say yours first.
Well,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
keep thinking.
probably as I'm about to say it, I'm realizing it's probably a really easy answer, but the box scene.
Hmm.
Like before that, I was really engaged and really interested, but I was still kind of in
Hmm.
my head, like thinking like this is so incredible. This is like in and this looks so good, but like why just just kind of still in my head. And then when that scene hit, like the emotional impact of that scene for Timothy Chalamet's character, but then also the mother character.
Rebecca Ferguson outside just
Yeah, it just like,
bawling her
yeah,
eyes out
that was
hysterically.
so incredible, that it just like sucked me in, and I was just
Hmm.
like, it was one of those like moments that I've only had a few times in a movie where, or
Yeah.
you know, movie experiences where I'm like watching the movie and then like like so far into the movie I realize, wait, I'm watching a movie right now. Like you kind of come back to your body
Yeah.
and you realize that you're sitting in a movie theater, and then you're like back in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I know what
but
you
from
mean.
that moment on, I was just like so hooked and so into the world.
I
Um,
maybe just to not be as obvious, like I remember a little bit before that, he gets out of bed and goes and has breakfast with his mom.
mm-hmm.
Um, and for the first time, you hear like them talking about the voice,
Uh-huh.
and he tries it for a second,
Yeah.
and you hear the like sound effect, but
Mm-hmm.
also the camera like starts like focusing on things around the room
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. That's not even the two characters. It's just like set dressing.
Yeah.
It shows the statue, the like small like paperweight statue of the bull, which we kind of
Mm-hmm.
find out is his grandpa, which doesn't have much meaning except for it's just like family,
Yeah.
ancient family history that
Mm-hmm.
means so much to these characters, and this world. But yeah, I mean, I guess to just a little less obvious of an answer, maybe it was that scene as well,
Yeah.
where I just saw like the potential.
Mm-hmm.
This,
Definitely. Yeah, that was a great scene. And like you first hear the voice and like how he's going to use the voice throughout.
yeah.
And then I love how how the voice, every time he like shows people use the voice, it's like elevated, because it's like maybe 3 or 4 times throughout
Hmm.
the movie. It's so that's the first one, and he's really weak, and the way he says it isn't as powerful, but he's still able to get
Hmm.
his mom to do the thing. The second time is when the witch lady,
Right.
in the box, makes him walk over, and that was so cool. But she still, like, he wasn't expecting it, and it wasn't like an impassioned thing, so it was still a little bit subtle. But then like the last time when they're in the ship flying away and the mom uses it with
Hmm.
like anger and force and true power, it's like terrifying. And it like, I saw it in Dolby Atmos. I don't know how you saw it, but it was like shaking the seats.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like each time it was like watching it again, you know, experiencing it for the first time again, because he was able to like use it in a new way or like elevate it to a new level. Each time it felt fresh, and loved it every
Yeah,
time.
I mean, the sound mixing, it was shocking, it was intense. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, that escape sequence on the ship just worked
Yeah.
really well for me.
Yeah.
Just the way they got out of that alive.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted like a big plot point that I didn't realize what I was getting myself into, but the further along it went, I just really was digging it. I think kind of the first hints of it, forget what character says it, but he's talking about he's talking about Paul, the lead character, and his bloodlines. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the characters is like your dad isn't your only like bloodline here. Like that's important. Like
Mm-hmm.
I forget the exact line, but they're like your mom's side is the far more significant one that's
Mm-hmm.
in play right now.
Yeah.
And that plot point follows through. Like this movie becomes a movie about Timothy Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson
Mm-hmm.
and their relationship and their survival
Yeah.
as pretty much everybody around them dies
Mm-hmm.
and they become more and more isolated and helpless.
Yeah.
Like I was getting like straight up Red Wedding vibes
Mm-hmm.
from Game of Thrones. I was just
Yeah.
like, everybody is
Yeah.
gone and it's
Yeah.
just these two people on the run.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I loved that this epic movie,
Mm-hmm.
like ends with these two characters on the run in the middle of the like absolute like sand desert, And
Mm-hmm.
it's just so like it was just such an unexpected path for me to be taken down. And I saw it like as it was happening, I was just like, hell yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is such a unique story.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah. How old is this? How old is this book?
1965. I got
Yeah.
it open right now.
Yeah. Um, yeah. It's that like yeah. It's such a great story. It's so interesting. There's so much depth to it, and yeah, it's been around for a long time. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings. Not quite as old
Yeah.
as Lord of the Rings, but it's like it's timeless. It's yeah.
I did get some serious Lord of the Rings vibes at the very end. Like I was saying, at that
Mm,
slow motion after the fight, and then they kind of leave, and there's the voiceover comes back again.
yeah.
Um, oh, I forget what he says, like sand powers or
Oh
something.
yeah,
Is it
sand
right?
power. Yeah.
And the music is just swelling, and I like tears started coming out of my eyes. I was
Uh-huh.
just like, I know it's about to end, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited that there's going to be another half to
Yeah.
this movie.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Like the end of
and
Fellowship as Sam and Frodo
exactly,
are walking off
yeah.
and yeah.
I think one of the characters in a cheesy but like good way, and maybe it was Zendaya, turns around and she was like, says the line of some sorts, like, "This is only the beginning."
Yeah.
Or he says like sand powers, and she's like, "You have no idea. This is just the beginning."
Uh-huh. Definitely.
Um,
And like he looks over and he sees the guy like riding the worm
yeah,
across the desert and like holy shit. Yeah,
there's
I'm
just
definitely
so much like
getting
intensity
goosebumps right now.
inside of me. Like tears started coming out of
Yeah.
my eyes,
Yeah.
and I was just like, knew it was about to cut, and I was
Uh-huh.
so ready
Yeah.
for it. And
Um
just yeah, Lord of the Rings vibes. And I
yeah.
meant to relate that back because I felt like I was in high school watching the end of Fellowship of the Ring again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One scene that I kind of forgot about that was that kind of took me to another level.
Yeah.
Was this just the scene where the worm was coming from for them and they're like running away? So is when the harvester or the worm was coming for him, the harvester was supposed to get picked up. It doesn't get picked
Yep.
up, and then I think Josh Brolin comes and grabs Timothy Chalamet, and they're
Right.
running back, and then like the sand starts, like they start
Sinking.
sinking into the sand, and
Mm-hmm.
like that idea. I don't remember if this was in the David Lynch one, or maybe it's how it's described in the book. But you think giant worms like moving quickly through sand. How is that possible? And then yeah, the idea that you vibrate the sand in a way so much that it like turns into that like almost liquid,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're like sinking into it, and it's just like it was so cool,
Yeah.
and I loved it so much.
They
And then
there's that shot. It's in the trailer, but it is when you see the shot, they get on the like steps of the spacecraft to pull them away,
mm-hmm,
and the worm comes out of the ground, but the shot is silhouetted behind um is it Josh Brolin and Timothy Chalamet
yeah, I think so.
with that head dangling on the edge of the plane,
Mm-hmm.
with the worm in the like backdrop. It is
Oh
so
my god,
beautiful.
that was it. Yep.
I
Yep.
I mean, just so like we're not only praising because there's a few like nits to pick, but I was very happy that they like went above and beyond in the moments after. I was like, all right, I'm fine with this. Like the coincidentalness of like they fly out there to look at the harvest, and
Mm.
they like instantly they see the worm coming.
Mm-hmm.
They signal everyone like them to go pick up the plane. The thing breaks while looking through the like binoculars at it, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like it was a little cheesy for a moment,
Yeah.
but then I like appreciated how big that scene ended up escalating after that.
Yeah.
um Not, and just like you're saying, not in its epicness, but then also in like Timothy Chalamet's character development too,
Yeah.
with him like the spice putting him into another dream state
Yeah.
like near the plane. Like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it made up for my little like
Yeah,
nit that I had to
definitely.
pick at the start of the scene.
Yeah. Absolutely. But and then also how that like transitions into the fact that when the Harkonnens left, they left everything kind of in disarray, and
Right. They talk about that
they
after
kind of
too, and
set
you're
them
like,
up to
oh, right.
fail.
Hmm.
And so it kind of made, I like how they kind of explain it a little bit later on why that
When
would
he gets
be the
back, he
case.
runs straight up to that girl, and he's
Yeah,
just like, "We had no chance here."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Super interesting. And yeah, I guess my small nit was, which isn't hardly even a nit because I love how fast paced the movie was, but like, why were they set up to fail, and why did the Harkonnen come back so aggressively?
Hmm.
And I
Because the
assume,
Harkonnen left seemingly on their
yeah.
own,
Well, they were told to
like,
leave by the Emperor, um, and because they had too much power apparently, and then the Emperor sent this new family, but he said he was set up to fail by the Emperor. I don't know why the Emperor would
right.
tell him to, and
And
then
that is what I think I'm hoping to find out
yeah,
at least. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I'm guessing that is a reveal. Like that
Hmm.
sounds like something that will come in a big moment. Is
Yeah.
like, why were they set up to fail? Why did this happen to this family? Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Definitely.
So
Um,
it is a bit confusing, but I think once you just like realize you saw half of a movie or literally half of a book, like hopefully it comes back around.
hmm. Definitely.
Like things are flying through my head.
Yeah.
The little needle scene, which
Hmm.
was a big moment in the David Lynch film. For
Hmm.
some reason, I really remember that scene
Yeah.
in the David Lynch film, um, with assassin, trying to kill him.
Hmm.
Like just like even that small, intense as hell moment,
Hmm.
of him like watching the videos of the history of the planet, and then
Yeah.
that needle coming through the wall, and the like awesome shot of the like light on his
Hmm.
face
Yeah.
as he's trying not to move.
Yeah.
Just like really, really good.
Like that's and again, I don't remember how David Lynch movie did it or how the book does it, but that scene was from the David Lynch movie, and yet he's like, in this one he shoots it as he's like walking through this hologram and like hiding behind this hologram tree. And that's kind of what I mean by, sure, that scene was in other movies, but like the way that he does it and the way that he builds that is
Hmm.
so unique in this movie. And like that's the way that that scene was shot is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Hmm.
And yeah. Yeah.
What the hell else?
I don't. And then like just like the attack on the city, so many huge explosions, and it looked so good.
Hmm.
Every moment looked so good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just it's absolutely like devastating. Like the amount of shit that was just blowing up. There's even that like one of the final shots where they like really like the design of like the mortar explosions
mm-hmm.
and how they like detonate and how they like split off from the like original like shot that was fired.
Yeah,
There's just like so many good choices and so many like great
yeah,
visuals even in like all that
yeah,
destruction.
definitely.
I feel like one thing we never got to see, and this is just coming to me now, I didn't really even think of it while I was watching the movie, is like the underworkings of that city.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
see it only from like the palace
yeah,
perspective. And I'm literally just thinking this now. It didn't bother me during the movie, but
mm-hmm.
like I'm surprised we actually didn't get a few extra scenes like inside
The market.
more the factory. Yeah.
See like the civilians who were there,
Yeah, exactly.
because it was
Um,
it was a big place.
yeah,
Um, yeah, no time, I guess.
no
Too much
time.
to do.
All right. Anything else you want to mention? I feel like we've actually touched up on a lot of stuff, and I could
Yeah,
just keep listing scenes, but like
yeah,
I don't know.
definitely.
I got it out of my system.
Yeah, definitely. Um, incredible. I'm so excited for the next one.
I know,
Um,
2023.
yeah. Oh, it's so far
So
away.
probably 2 years,
Yeah.
which is, I guess, that's fast for any movie,
That's a
but
that's an interest. Like you don't really see that anymore these days. I feel like I don't know if you've ever seen that in movies where you make literally just half of a movie without greenlighting a sequel.
Yeah. But just waiting to see how good it does or doesn't
Yeah,
do so you can fund the next one.
like we will literally not even finish the story, not finish the movie. We will give the world half of a movie if
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't if this doesn't do well.
For sure. Yeah, like if this hadn't have done good, or maybe they just ended up selling this to Netflix and just calling it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, think about if this movie had just gone to streaming like in mid 2020
Yeah.
and we never saw the next part of Denis Villeneuve's vision. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I would be so devastated.
Yeah.
And that could have easily have happened over the last year and a half.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really interesting. And I don't know, maybe it's a huge, like, a almost a positive, like, what a risk to take, like,
Mm-hmm.
because that could, yeah, that could really come back to bite you. Like, if you're only going to make half of a movie and people aren't really into that and don't want to just go see a 2.5 hour half of a movie without having a second one on the way, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. Let's call it here and talk about next Tuesday. We're going to do a little bit more of a unique episode we're trying to put together. We're going to do kind of our Halloween special.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you list off the 4-ish movies we're going to go for, Sean?
Well, it's a little up in the air. We need to talk about it. Initially,
Halloween Kills.
Yeah, our initial ones were Halloween Kills, Titan, Titany, Titany, and then Lamb, and then
Yes.
the big one. The big one is Last Night in Soho.
Right.
Having seen a couple of those movies, another one is, what was it called? The Nick and Derek wanted to review the Undertaker movie.
All right, that'd be interesting. And maybe Antlers or
so yeah,
some
Antlers is the other one. Because honestly, Lamb is not super horror-y in my mind. It really.
Hey, spoilers.
Did you not
Haven't
see
seen
it?
it yet.
Okay.
But let's not hash out. Those are the potential films that we'll talk about on our Halloween special. We'll do more of a cutthroat listing of all these horror movies that came out in October, and it'll be pretty fun. That'll be next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Please like and subscribe, and maybe we'll have a bigger crowd than just 2 people here for that one. See you, everybody.